Malalai Joya, who's only 35 years old, first gained international attention in 2003 when she spoke out publicly against the domination of warlords in Afghanistan. This was after their liberation, in quotes. In 2005, she became one of 68 women elected to the 249-seat National Assembly and was the youngest member of the Afghan parliament. An extraordinary young woman raised in the refugee camps of Iran and Pakistan, Joya became a teacher in secret girls' schools, hiding her books under her burqa so the Taliban couldn't find them. She helped establish a free medical clinic, an orphanage in her impoverished home province of Farah. In 2010, Time magazine placed Malalai Joya on their annual list of the 100 most influential people in the world. Foreign Policy magazine listed her in its annual list of the top 100 global thinkers in March 2011. And the Guardian newspaper of London listed her among the top 100 women activists and campaigners. And her widely praised book, A Woman Among Warlords, The Extraordinary Story of an Afghan Who Dared to Raise Her Voice, was published in 2009. The paperback version is now out, and there's just a few copies left after this tour, but they will be available, and Malalai would be glad to sign them for you after the program. As Jeff said, get ready for an extraordinary presentation. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Malalai Joya.
Good evening to all of you. Good to meet you. I would like to thank supporters and friends of the United Nations Anti-War Coalition and Afghan Women Mission who invited me this time to US to bring the message of the suffered and oppressed people of Afghanistan to justice-loving people of the US. And also my special thanks to dear Paul George, director of the Peninsula Peace and Justice Center, who organized this event tonight and gave me this opportunity to talk about the realities of the so-called war on terror by US and NATO and brutalities of these Islamic fundamentalists. Today, I represent a nation who, after 12 years of the so-called war on terror, they still suffer from the fascism of fundamentalism and imperialism of the US and NATO occupation. And besides condemning this sinister years, these bloody years, I want to share with you the consequences of these war crimes or this so-called war on terror of the US and NATO to you, which were only more bloodshed, women's rights, human rights violations, crimes, looting of our resources and changing of our country into a mafia state. And during these bloody years, the occupation forces and also these terrorist fundamentalist groups, they have killed tens of thousands of innocent people, as most of them was women and children. And now widespread poverty, destitution, and injustice have made life like a torture for millions of Afghans. And it is suffice to say that in the UN Human Development Index, Afghanistan is ranked at 175th position in the top 10 list of most underdeveloped countries. And also it holds the first position in the corruption index, as there is a recent report Afghanistan is the second most corrupt country in the world. And as around 20 million people out of estimated 27 million population of Afghanistan are living under the line of poverty. And during this 12 years, they have changed Afghanistan to the center of the drug in the world, as today more than 90% of opium produced from Afghanistan in the world. And I believe that opium even more dangerous than Al-Qaeda and terrorism and destroys the life of these innocent Afghans, as the recent report shows that around 2 million Afghans, they are addicted, and most of them are women and children. That later I will show you some picture as a tip of the iceberg. And Opium Bride is another tragic story that you may also hear, that usually girls aged below 16, they are married off in exchange of opium if a farmer fails to supply opium to these powerful warlords. And also, according to the Uniform report, Afghanistan is the most dangerous place to be a woman. And this list can be prolonged according to the consequences of this so-called war on terror. And especially catastrophic situation of women was very good excuse for US and NATO to occupy our country. Even sometimes they misuse from the miseries of these Afghan women that, again, I will show you some picture later. And although the Western media, they raise so much outcry about the women's participation in the political life of Afghanistan, it's another lie, big lie. And over 80% of women, they face some sort of violences, but there is a complete impunity for the perpetrators of such crimes. And even a woman, an MP named Nurzia Atmar, she recently was forced to seek asylum from her abusing husband, who had link with these warlords. And even she was one of those that who, when I was in the parliament, that to me like this told me that if you do not say silence, I will do something against you that no man dare to do. And also forced marriages, child bride, acid attacks, domestic violences, attack on schoolgirls, burning the gas schools, cut the nose and ears of the woman. Different kind of violences against women increase more and more, even skyrocketing. As recently, 16-year-old girl, her name was Shakila, she has been brutally raped by a member of the Provincial Council of Bamyan province, and then has been shot by Kalashnikov from the behind, from the back, has been killed. And now and the last report that I got, 5 parliamentarians now, they partner in this crime, and they are trying to forge the medical report of this raped girl. And even this mafia court that we have, trying to end this case in the favor of the rapist. And now I'm working on this case that later I will share more story of Shakila with you as a tip of the iceberg. And the brave journalists, independent journalists that who if try to make report of such crimes and violences against women, they receive death threats or kidnap them or even eliminate them. And as twice the report, even in Afghanistan from different sources, the media gave report, this non-democratic media, that was the bloody years for the journalists, that later if you want I can give you more examples that who has been killed and kidnapped. And also during this 12 years, US and NATO, they tell to our people we are there to fight against Taliban or in the name of the so-called war on terror. But now, after this decade of war, they say that Taliban is not their enemy. Publicly says to our people, US officials and also NATO, wrong politician. But I think they are right, because at least on behalf of my people, I was saying this 10 years that Taliban, warlords, all these extremist fundamentalists, they were product of the White House and invested millions of dollars on them, and they are only the enemies of Afghan people. And this 12 years, in fact, they played the game of Tom and Jerry with these terrorists. And now invite them under the name of National Peace Reconciliation to join this puppet mafia regime. And if they come also in power, the situation will be more bloody, more disaster, especially for the women of our country. Even recently, they opened an office for these terrorists of the Stone Age in Qatar, as you may hear about this. And I believe that first, peace never comes by the sworn enemies of peace, democracy, justice, especially the way we witness the rule of these Northern Alliance fundamentalists who are blood and creed of the Taliban. And such kind of so-called peace, I believe, will be more dangerous than the current war, because the result of this peace make more unite the enemies of Afghan people, especially the sworn enemies of women, then will be easier for them to continue to their fascism against our people, especially women of our country and these progressive activists that who are still risking their life, and most of them are underground. And the only demand of Afghan people is justice. Peace without justice and independence of our country is meaningless. And they want justice for these blind bombardment of the Taliban, these terrorist Taliban and their brother in creed who continue to do their crimes, and also these occupation forces that through their blind bombardments and massacres they took, and they are taking the life of countless innocent civilians. And right now, the US and NATO, they only want peace for themselves, as in the expense of putting our people more to disasters through empowering these reactionary terrorists like these Taliban and these other drug lords, looters who are in power. And also they tell us that they will leave Afghanistan by mid of 2014. It's another big lie. And you also may hear this through propaganda machine, mainstream media. And from one hand, they talk about the withdrawal of their troops. From another hand, they are talking about the US permanent military bases there. And as nowadays, they are working on 9 major military bases. And John Kerry recently was in Kabul and was talking about the so-called security agreement with puppet regime of Hamid Karzai. And even they are talking about handing over of the responsibility of security to Afghan National Army and police. It is also like a trick to use these Afghan as cannon fooders to decrease the number of their own soldier casualties, same like what they did in Vietnam War. So people of the world, they should know that the US and NATO, they are in my country for their own strategic, regional, economic, and political interest. And they don't care to the wishes of these Afghan, or at least I was saying on behalf of my people, we wish that it was not military invasion, it was invasion of schools, clinic, hospital that we really needed. And itself is enough to show the hypocrisy of the US government as example, as they are making more powerful their puppet regime by bringing more terrorists in power and also making legalized their military bases there. Few thousands of the troops, then they withdraw because under the pressure of the good people of this country and these other Western countries then tell them that we leave Afghanistan, even very easier for them to indirectly also control Afghanistan. And that's why I believe that in a country where will have military bases, they can't expect that they have independence. In a country like Afghanistan, we have no independence. Talking about democracy, women's rights, justice, peace, these values is just a ridiculous joke. As this 12 years we had democracy, but caricature of democracy with bloodiest hands. Democracy for these bunch of killers that with mask of democracy was in power and easier to continue to their fascism against innocent Afghan people. And for these reasons, I believe the only solution for the catastrophic situation of Afghanistan is the withdrawal of these troops. Even if they leave Afghanistan today, is much easier than tomorrow, because the presence of these troops is making much harder our struggle for justice, peace, democracy, by empowering these dark-minded reactionary terrorist elements that who are will be more able to create more obstacles for these progressive some parties that we have, and also modern parties, intellectuals and activists that, as I said, still they are, most of them are underground. And also they talk to you about the so-called free election in Afghanistan, especially this 12 years we experienced this kind of fraudulent, ridiculous election. Even I believe it was the most ridiculous election in the world. And our people call it selection, not election, because we experienced this 12 years and people use this proverb that it's not important who is voting, it's important who is counting. This is our problem. All the boxes in the hands of this corrupt mafia regime, they betrayed the votes of Afghan people and they will betray again. And also the presidential election, people nowadays, they use this proverb that result will be like the same donkey but with different saddle. Means that this shameless puppet man like Karzai will remove from power, but another Karzai will come to power. And they are, I'm sure that some progressive people, also democratic minded, will run for the election, but they will never win because they are not puppet. And millions of Afghan and also these other progressive people, they boycott this election as they did in the past. And I also boycotted the election while people call me even to run for the presidential election. They don't see the number of my age or even the gender as these warlords. They are giving wrong picture about Afghans to people around the world that this is male domination society, or for example, they say that women, they like burqa or to be in the house. Anyway, as they damaged our culture too. And itself should be an example that in the past also we had proudful culture, and still we have, but the problem is these extremist fundamentalists who are in power. And same like they are giving bad view about Afghan people to the Western countries, and the Western governments, they are giving bad view about the Western people to our people, especially about democracy. As we know that elementary meaning of democracy is government of people, for people. And I will never be tired on behalf of my people to say from every audience with loud voice that no nation can donate liberation to another nation. Liberation should be achieved in a country by the people themselves. And our people, they are able to fight terrorist Taliban and also fundamentalist warlords if US and NATO, they let us a little bit breathe in peace. If they stop arming these reactionary terrorists, as I said, who are great obstacles for these true democratic-minded elements in my country, and then they shamelessly portray themselves as real friends for Afghan people. As this 12 years, they were the friend of this bunch of their puppets. And also, according to the history of the US government, that how since Second World War, they interfered in internal issues of different countries. I don't want to give much example, do not take your time. Just recent example, we can see that how Obama's administration or US administration, they are waging the war, and this criminal war, as nowadays what they are doing in Syria is just heart-wrenching. And you see how they are giving weapons to the fundamentalists there who are brother and creed of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. And when I follow the news in Syria, it reminds me what happened this more than 3 decades in Afghanistan, especially this 12 years of the so-called war on terror. And also you saw that how US interfered under the umbrella of the UN, and what they did in Libya and also in Egypt, supported these extremist fundamentalist Ikhwan there, who this Muslim Brotherhood, that you saw very soon again this great people of the Egypt stand up against these extremist fundamentalists. And many examples like this, the drone attack, they increased more in Pakistan, took the life of countless innocent civilians there. Obama's administration support more this Zionist regime of Israel, that what's doing in Palestine is just heartbreaking. And many examples like this, at least when Obama came in power, surged more troops to my country, that the result was more bloodshed, more crimes. And Obama maybe did something positive for his country, dead or not, but for my people, even I believe he's not only a second, even dangerous push. And now he is inviting these terrorist Taliban also, Gulbuddin Hekmati, or this fascist man, to join this puppet corrupt mafia regime. And now we see that how imperialism and fundamentalism, they join their hands together, and they are trying to lead the wars against towards barbarism. So we should fight against it, even if it happens in Iraq, in Iran, in Syria, in Libya, in Palestine, or any other countries. And fortunately, we see the glorious uprising of justice-loving people around the world, especially in US, against these warmongers, which shows the huge difference of the people of the US, this great nation, with their wrong politicians, these warmongers who are in power, which is a big source of hope. And it is a great example for my people too. And as always I say that US has two faces for Afghan people. One is the dirty imperialist government of the US, another is the great people of the US, like Professor Chomsky's and many Chomsky's like you, who stand up against war and who join their hands with these oppressed people and countries like Afghanistan, and expose the wrongdoing of their government. And also great people like Snowden, Manning, Mattis Schutz, Daniel Ellsberg, John Parker, Mike Prisoner, Joe Clinton, and hundreds and thousands of these other anti-war soldiers who their consciousness get awake and they expose the war crime of their government. For their government, they are considered traitors. But for my people, and also I'm sure for millions of people, especially oppressed people around the world, they are heroes and source of inspiration. From this opportunity, I want to send salutation to Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden, who are so brave to expose the real criminals in Pentagon and White House in the heart of the US, and they played a big role in enlightening people around the world about the true brutal face of the US imperialism. So the more such brave people are praised by their government, I mean US administration, the more they will find their place in the hearts of suffering people around the world and also peace-loving people around the world. I don't want to take much of your time. I want to end this talk with the quote of dear Martin Luther King, who says the arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice. Thank you. Before you ask question, I want to show you, here I have a slide. I try my best to be brief as a tip of the iceberg, some pictures I have to show you. In this slide you see in the middle is the picture of these bunch of killers, not only warlords and also even Taliban, also the picture of the puppet of Russia who did massacred and killed countless innocent civilians in the past, progressive people. And also you see some picture of the so-called Western technocrats who, because of the power, because of the money, they did compromise with these terrorists and shared their crimes. And most of them are the warlords who from 92 to 96, they did crimes in Afghanistan and violences against women. Around this picture, you see that in the bottom, their stone date and also how they killed the people. And this little girl, all member of her family, has been killed during the Civil War when these warlords was in power. But after 9/11, again, with mask of democracy come in power. Next page. In this page, you see example of the brutalities of these troops and also these people that the warlords, how they killed them. And even maybe you saw the picture of the Spiegel that how they are making fun with the dead bodies of Afghan, urinating on the corpses, and many examples of their brutalities. Next page. Oh, sorry, you wanted to take photo? If you want later, I send you the slide. In this picture, you see that how they destroyed Afghanistan during the Civil War. And only picture tell you everything. And also how women, they use this disgusting burqa. Next page. And this picture you see is that here in the bottom, that Sahar girl, a young girl who has been brutally tortured by her cruel husband. As killing of women that much easy for these terrorists, especially this 12 years, like killing a bird. And this picture tell you everything, how they pull out the hair and even the nails of this innocent woman. And she now living with very bad condition of the health and shelter. And those misogynists who did this crime, her husband and also mother-in-law of this woman, they went to the jail but just recently released. And many examples like Sahar Gol's story that Sam I shared when I travel. You want to know about the tragic story of Sahar Gol, you can go to Rawa's website. That picture you see how in the Taliban time they beat women with lashes, but today also women, they wear burqa, especially in the rural areas. Next page, please. And this you see in like Taliban time, we have jungle law, that how they beat women with lashes and even shoot on their head. These two women in Ghazni province, they prosecuted them. There you see another province how beat with lashes, and many times it happened. Even this non-democratic media also sometimes give report. Just recently, a woman, her name was Najib, a few months ago in Parwan province, few kilometers away from Kabul. She has been shot by Kalashnikov on her whole body by Islamic fundamentalist party of Gulbuddin Hekmatyar. without at least to bring to that symbolic court infected with these viruses of these fundamentalists. Next page, please. And this is the story of Shakila, that now this case is one of the hundreds cases that I follow in Afghanistan, and trying to find a lawyer to follow this case. As to have a lawyer, a progressive lawyer, it is very difficult, and because they receive death threats. But we have some brave lawyers that following such kind of cases. And this Shakila, 16 years old, belonged to a very poor family, and her sister was pregnant, and she's coming to help her sister. And brother-in-law of Shakila, bodyguard of this warlord man in Bamiyan province, and they give one of their house to this poor family and build a wall in the middle. And one day, sister of Shakila going outside to bring water, because you know in Afghanistan still more people don't have access to water, and they go from the field from outside bring. And the brother-in-law of Shakila, this warlord, made him busy in the provincial council, and he and also one of his relatives together, they raped this young girl. And then from behind, with the Kalashnikov of the brother-in-law of Shakila, they shoot and kill her. And then tell to the people, to the court, that brother-in-law of Shakila killed Shakila. And this innocent man for 6 months go to the jail. And then the neighbors and these other Afghan who were at that time, they says that when this crime happened, he was not there when this incident happened. That's how they released this man. But now they are trying to end this case in the favor of this rapist. And this is only one example, while countless like this examples we have. And there's 3 other, you see, while 2 more parliamentarian, they are belong to party of this fundamentalist, extremist fundamentalist, and the one who have glass, the brother of this one, they are in the parliament. And next page. And this self-immolation is skyrocketing in Afghanistan, as it has different reasons: male domination society, especially this extremists are in power, these misogynists. And these women, just to get rid of the misery, they burn themselves. I have many pictures like this, but it's really difficult even for you as human to see it. And this is mother of this suffer woman that she is nurse and crying, and she just, after few months of the marriage, she do self-immolation. Next. In this picture, young girls who has been raped, 4 years old, 7 years old, 12 years old, as one of them was 14 years old, Bashira, one of my bodyguard, that marry with this young girl. And in Afghan history, it is like just a huge positive example that we can see. Like they say, these fundamentalists, like the girls who get raped, and also this male domination society, nobody ready to marry. To watch the girls victimized. Once rape, and then for the rest of their life, nobody will marry them. But a person, one of my bodyguard married, and the other Afghan encouraged him while he is not educated, this bodyguard. And it could be a positive example that I say that shows that people are ready to bring positive changes in our country. But the problem is those who are in power. Next page. In this page, you see, as I said, they misuse the miseries of the woman. You know a story of Bibi Aisha. And the Tab magazine says, what happens if we leave Afghanistan? It was better if they were honest for my people, change this topic. What happens while we are in Afghanistan? You see these other women that in the bottom cluster bomb they used in Kandahar, these 2 other white phosphorus they used in Farah province. They never bring these kind of girls for treatment to Western countries because their war crime get exposed. Next page, please. This, you see that some of these children, countless of such kind of babies has been killed. And independent journalists take these photos and send to some activists like me and these other who able to travel, like Rao member, a few other progressive parties that we have there. And mainstream media never show to you. Next page, please. I will show you more picture. These are civilian casualties. Next page more. If you want to see more picture, you can go even at least to the website of not only Rawa, also page of the Professor Mark Herald. And the recent report that Robert Dreyfus wrote is wonderful report. I read that, especially gave you a report about the countless massacres they did in different parts of Afghanistan. And this you see also how much children they killed. For US government, maybe they are terrorists, as they say now Taliban is not their enemy. Next page. In this, Laura Bush, in many Bushes, Laura Bush is saying that first time we brought women's rights in the history of Afghanistan. Another big lie. At least this piece of newspaper tell you that how women, they had limited rights in 60s, 70s. I have more picture, but this picture you see how women with modern clothes, they played their role on that time in Kabul. Even the girls go to school without a scarf. But today, even in Kabul, you see how they wear burqa, while in rural areas, situation is like hell for most of these women. Next page, please. In this picture, you see as 25% seats of parliament belongs to women. And most of these women, they are pro-warlords, pro-occupation, and even fundamentalist women. This lady nowadays very famous, her name is Fawzia Kufi with Condoleezza Rice. You see that how she enjoy, and the picture enough to tell you. But she's a pro-warlord lady and also fundamentalist one who, when I was inside of parliament, the day I had been beaten, she was saying that the reason I stand up with you because you are Tajik. And then I said, who told you I'm Tajik? And I'm Afghan, as we had a hero, king like Amanullah Khan was saying, all Uzbek, Hazara, Pashtun, Tajik, all of them, they are Afghan. But these pro-warlord men and women and these fundamentalists who are in the parliament and they are in the cabinet, they have high posts, they still play the dirty policy of the British, divide and rule. And now she wrote a book, and even in her book she's saying that Malalai is brave. Anyway, I'm surprised. And she wants to use from my fame too to deceive my supporter. And even she's running for presidential election. In this picture, you see that another lady who is a famous drug lord and also her brother, recently media in Afghanistan even exposed. But still she's in parliament and enjoying. While many examples I have, I do not take much of your time. Next page. And this is the picture shows that how mafia parliament we have the day that beat at me, even not freedom of speech. But this picture you see two of my bodyguard that last year they attacked my office in Farah province and they brutally has been injured. They shoot it on them, midnight they attacked and also stabbed with knife. And fortunately other bodyguard and also the neighbor, most of them are supporter, they wake up and they do resistance and they not able to kill them. But supporter from Italy, they helped and I brought them from Farah to Kabul to be treatment, as the hospital in Farah is not good, system is very corrupt again. But this to see how they are brave, and when I went to the hospital they are laughing and I'm really worried about their lives. Next page. And this you see survey shows to you that how situation of women disaster. Later if you want you can read again, just because lack of time. Next page, please. And this, how they changed Afghanistan to the center of the drug. Medieval-minded Taliban, they almost destroyed opium. You see here how much opium is, but year by year opium increased, as it was one of the main projects of the CIA. After the trades of arm and oil, they are making billions of dollars from dirty business of opium. And even found opium its way on the streets of New York and Europe. You also may hear sometimes even some mainstream media expose like New York Times that give report. Next page. And this pages you see that how women, children, they addicted. In Kabul there is a bridge. When you go behind of this bridge, under the bridge, there are countless these addicted people. Most of them are youths, women, children, and no journalist there to go there. Next page. And this you see how example of the corruption. The picture tell you everything, and now in cold weather they are bickering. Even once journalists give report, city of Kabul is like city of the beggar, and it is ridiculous that Karzai also banned bickering, not because to help them, because their corruption get exposed, because mainstream media, also other journalists, brave journalists or independent journalists coming, they give report. Next page. And this you see that how rich mine we have in the map. This report of different rich mines that the recent report says around 3 trillion mineral deposit we have, as our copper mine is the second best copper mine in the world. And they are receiving bribe from Chinese companies, different companies, and they are doing dirty deals. And as example, you see that. If you want, I will send you the report of the Washington Post that give report. The Minister of the Mine, Ibrahim Hadel, receiving around $30 million from the Chinese company and do this dirty deal. And this picture you see according to the bribe that, and also corruption, and that start from the palace office till the small offices. And again, I say they give bad view about the culture of Afghan, while it was not in our culture to receive bribe. But this is the those who are in power and they are foreign master trying to make it like common there in Afghanistan. Next page. And this, you see that how people do demonstration, resistance of the people. Only that picture recently I got, while I have many pictures like thousands of people, hundreds of people, they do resistance. Later, if you want, I give you more example, but briefly tell the story of this picture. Then this picture, 13 civilians, 13 Afghan, the oldest one, 25 years old. And you should think how much they were young. All of them has been shot and killed in the border of Iran while they are going there to work hard, support financially their family. Even that dictator regime reject to give the dead bodies of these Afghans to their family. And this family, Safar family, they had picture of their sons, and there thousands that these other Afghan joined their demonstration. And mainstream media never give report to you. You can see more picture on the Solidarity Party of Afghanistan websites. These brave young activists that who organized demonstration against massacre of these foreigner, US and NATO, also these neighbor countries. Next page. And these are two heroes that you already know about them. As Snowden says, I cannot in good conscience allow the US government destroy privacy, internet freedom, and basic liberties for people around the world with this massive surveillance machine they are secretly building. And next page. And Manning says, I don't want to be the part of the killing and crime machine of the US government. And here are a number of the book. Next page, please. To show you, if you had time, I recommend to read it to know more about role of the CIA, especially in this book, Devil's Game, Robert Dreyfuss wrote. And this is a wonderful book that exposes how CIA, not only in Afghanistan, in countless countries, created these extremist fundamentalists and invested a lot of money on them for their dirty agendas. Next page, please. And this page, you see Katie Gannon, I is for infidel. It's about civil war, tell you to know more about these warlords and their brutalities. Next page, please. And this Bleeding Afghanistan, Sonali Kolhatkar and Jay Mingus wrote that it's about the so-called war on terror and also occupation of Afghanistan. And next page, please. This is my book that you already heard about it, and also you may read it. It has 3 reasons that I wrote it. The co-writer is Derek O'Keefe from Canada, a writer and also an activist. And one reason was because to tell the truth is still the first casualty is the truth. The second, expose the mask of the warlords who is still deceiving people around the world. The third, to tell about the so-called war on terror, as I believe this is war on innocent civilians. Next page. And I think it finished. Here is my Facebook and this Twitter site. Like, if you want, we should stay in contact as we are here for 1 hour or 1 day. But we really need your support for this prolonged struggle against occupation and against fundamentalism there. Once again, heartfelt thanks for your coming and support.